We take our news on the rocks. It's Tim Roxborogh. Call 0800 80 10 80 on Newstalk ZB.
And they like to play on people's fears, and their job is not to, exercise any kind of moral position or anything. It's to sell papers and push a political point of view. So when they released their 2 p.m. edition yesterday, and it said, the day we changed forever, what they are wanting to tap into is people's legitimate concerns about extremist Islam and then people's fears about Islam in general. And when they're saying that, they wanted you to think that this had never, ever happened before. And yet, the Port Arthur massacre happened some years ago and more than 30 people died. Horrific things are not unprecedented, unfortunately.
Breaking news and talking issues. It's Tim Roxborogh on Newstalk ZB.
The realm that the senses can ascertain is surely not all that there is to reality. We just think of that as reality because that's all that we can prescribe, ascertain and understand. But there are realms beyond realms beyond realms of information inaccessible to us. My cat doesn't know there's an internet.
Morrissey.
Yes, that's not the key fact here, Tim.
No,
but
it's not.
Is called Morrissey.
But carry on with the story.
That is called Morrissey.
Sorry.
Thank you, my darling man.
0800 80 10 80. It's the two on Newstalk ZB.
And with us now, Kelvin. Hi.
Very good evening to you too. That's 3 twos.
Well done.
Now, if I may, before I get on...
No, hold on. You 2. That's...
2 twos.
No, I said good evening to you too. To you too.
Well, that's really 6 twos, isn't it?
No, only
you
3.
2. Okay, then.
And what if you were saying that to Desmond?
I was right, you were wrong.
If you were saying that to Desmond Tutu?
Yeah, well,
No,
that's great. Good evening to you 2, including Desmond Tutu. Yeah.
Now,
and Taito's Ty Tyler tied his shoelace or something. But anyway.
It's Talkback, but not as you know it. The two. 0800 80 10 80 on Newstalk ZB.
Hey, did we know Prince George, the new one?
We know him well.
The baby one. Did we know he was definitely coming with, the parents? What's their name? Kate and
Gary.
And Gary, yeah. Kate and Gaza. Did we know that the baby was definitely coming?
I felt that I knew that. I mean, I've known for some time.
I thought it was just released yesterday by the new Governor-General in Australia who let it slip.
Well, we knew that Gary and Kate were coming to New Zealand.
We knew, yes, but we didn't know they were bringing the baby.
Well, were they going to leave the baby?
Well, there was a whole
Fanta.
look. They had 3 corgis and a Game Boy. We're going to be looking after for a while.
Can't they afford a decent electronic device?
They can't. They're just rapt about Spark coming in because I think it'll have a princely kind of technology that can look after him.
Well, that's what Gary said.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited because he's growing into a bruiser. He's like a normal-looking kid. Did you see the picture of Kate recently in a magazine? She had the one-arm Colin Mead baby hold. And I thought, like it. She looked all glam, but she also had the baby
Tucked
on the...
under one arm.
Yeah, and she was smoking a cigarette.
What?
No. And she had her teeth out and she was wearing a crappy old dressing gown, Candlewick.
And did she have a William Cody's?
Yeah, and she had her hair in rollers with, chiffon scarf around.
Oh, well, you keep us updated on the royal team, the crew.
It's what I've always wanted to be, a royal reporter, now called a crew.
Let's do some headlines. Juliet's...
The two, twice the fun. Call 0800 80 10 80. Newstalk ZB.
This is the thing.
Have you got something else in your head?
And look, we must head to a break.
I'm so proud of you, Timmy.
But I've heard on good authority that the All Blacks don't actually win many Halbergs. And it's a little bit like, say, accusations about Shane Taurima, who was obviously very, very silly. I mean, it was staggeringly silly what he did. But when there were national MPs saying, oh, yes, he was very biased against us, that's the reaction that people tend to have. But if you go back and look at his interviews with people like Shearer, he was often actually incredibly hard on people from Labour.
I thought he was very, I think, I agree with you, he was very stupid and arrogant, to use office, time, location, emails.
Incredibly.
But that's all been chewed over. But he started doing interviews on Q&A, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, and so
down the line.
And I don't know whether it's going to make sense how I believe it relates, but sometimes if you feel that you have an affiliation for a certain side, you will actually try to rebut all those tendencies and go harder against that affiliation. And that seems to be the case with the All Blacks and the Halbergs. They don't win a lot of Halbergs because they're so popular and it's our biggest sport that people are so nervous.
Is it a spore?
Did I say spore? And it's our biggest spore that we tend to award them less than other sport. Because we don't want to seem to favour them.
Very much like the school teacher who has to have their own child in the class, and they'll be much meaner on them. Often kill them.
All right, we'll be back soon.
No, they don't kill them. They just maim them.
But it's to prove a point. They're not going to be the teacher's pet.
Yeah,
dead legs.
I'm going to put you in a coma.
All right, it's 25 to 12.